Okay, we are going to finish chapter 6 of Life as We Knew It. And she was just thinking about pancakes. And that is where we are. She thinks it's the best day in ages. And she says, best day in ages. For starters, Mom made pancakes. Okay, they weren't pancakes as we all remember them, but close enough. Water instead of milk, dried egg whites instead of eggs, which made them fluffier and less heavy. No butter, but lots of maple syrup. We loved them. Mom smiled like I haven't seen her smile in weeks. Johnny asked for seconds, and Mom made them for him, for all of us, really, since we ate like pigs. Mom sent Matt to get Mrs. Nesbit so she got to eat pancakes also. It was amazing not to feel hungry and not to crave more or different. Then after I'd fully digested, Mom insisted on that, I went to the pond. Dan was already there and so was Emily, but Karen didn't show up. The day was a little grayish, but still murky and humid and hot, and the water felt great. We swam and raced and had a good time, and then, oh, happy day, Emily had to leave to do something back at her house, so Dan and I were alone. Okay, there were a half dozen other people at the pond, but we didn't know them, so we were alone in that way. We continued to swim for a while longer, and then we got out of the water, toweled off, not the sort of day where you dry yourself off in the sun, and took a little walk through the woods surrounding the pond. It was wonderful. We held hands, we hugged, we kissed. We talked too, and sometimes we didn't do anything, just stood quietly and let the trees and the birds surround us. Underneath everything, I wonder if Dan would even know I was around if things were normal. Sure, he was nice to me at school and at practice sessions, but there's a difference between saying I have a good crawl stroke and holding me tight in a forest while we kiss. If anybody ever reads this diary, I will absolutely die. Dan walked me home, but he didn't come in. It was lunchtime, and there's an unspoken understanding that you don't drop in at meal times. Peter doesn't seem to understand this, but he always brings food. When I went into the kitchen, there was a strange, pleasant smell that I couldn't quite identify, and then I saw Mom punching a lumpy white thing. She was positively grinning as she punched. I'm baking bread, she said. The pancakes made me think about just what we have, and I remembered buying yeast. I put it in the fridge and forgot about it, but there it was. I'm using water instead of milk, but that's okay. We're going to have fresh baked bread. You're kidding, I said. It seemed too good to be true. I have enough yeast for 6 loaves, Mom said. I'm baking 2 today, 1 for us and a half loaf for Mrs. Nesbit and a half for Peter. As soon as we're finished with our loaf, I'll bake another. There's no point holding off. We'll eat bread for as long as we can, and then I'll check out non-yeast recipes and we'll have something breadish until I run out of flour. I just wish I'd thought of it sooner. We can save some of it for the fall, I said, after Johnny and I get back from Springfield. And just because it was that sort of day, as soon as I said it, the phone rang. It's been so long since I heard that sound, I practically had a heart attack. I answered the phone and it was Dad. Johnny and Matt were at the park, so they did not get to talk with him, but I did. It was so great hearing his voice. He's fine and Lisa's fine, and she saw her obstetrician and the baby is fine. Dad says he tries our number and Grandma's and Lisa's parents 3 times a day. He spoke to Grandma a couple of days ago and she's fine. Lisa reached her parents about a week ago and they were okay also. He said he can't wait to see us and he was sure we'd be able to manage. Springfield hasn't had any food deliveries in the past couple of weeks, but he and Lisa had stocked up on stuff when all of this first happened, and they have some friends who have left Springfield to go south and let them have all their canned goods and boxed foods. Besides, he'd heard that the local farmers were planting crops and that some trucks were on the roads again and things couldn't stay this way forever. Just hearing Dad say all that and smelling bread in the kitchen made me feel a lot more optimistic. Mom was so proud when the loaves came out of the oven. They were golden brown and tasted much better than store-bought bread. Matt biked over to Mrs. Nesbitt's and to Peter's office and gave them their goods. We had peanut butter and jelly on fresh baked bread for supper tonight. Open-faced sandwiches because we sliced the bread so thick. Mom says if we keep eating like this, we'll end up fat and malnourished, but I don't care. It was wonderful. And then, because when good things happen, they just keep on happening, we had electricity and it came at 7 p.m., a time when we could actually use it, and it stayed on for 3 whole hours. Mom did 3 loads of laundry and got 2 of them dry. I vacuumed the whole house. We ran all the dishes through the dishwasher. We ran the central air and cooled the house off. Just for the hell of it, Matt toasted a slice of bread and we all nibbled on it. I'd forgotten how great toast is, crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside. A couple of days ago, Matt had gone into the attic and brought down a real old black and white TV set with a built-in antenna. Mom says the antennas were called rabbit ears, which I think is pretty silly. With the electricity on, we turned on the TV set and got 2 stations. We can't get any TV reception on our other sets. Our cable reception is completely gone. Just seeing a picture on TV was exciting. One station was religious. The other station showed reruns of Seinfeld and Friends. Guess which station we watched? Watching sitcoms was like eating toast. 2 months ago, it was so much a part of my life, I didn't even notice it. But now it feels like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and the Wizard of Oz all rolled into one. We have clean sheets to sleep on, a clean house, clean clothes, clean dishes. We spent the evening laughing. It wasn't 90 degrees in the house when we went to bed. We aren't hungry. We are not worried about Dad. I know what it feels like to be kissed by a boy. If I could, I would relive this day over and over. I can't imagine a more perfect one. Whenever I have good days, I always remember that every day is not a good day. And so I brace myself for non-good days, but I do enjoy the good days when I have good days. So, because as you can see from the next sentence, that was a good day, but now the good day has ended because it's June 24th. I am so angry at Mom, I could scream, and it doesn't help that she's as mad at me as I am at her. You know, the day started out great too. The sun was shining, perfect swimming weather. There was enough bread left for each of us to have a slice for breakfast. Mom brought in a few strawberries from the garden and we each had 2. I went to the pond and I didn't even mind that Karen and Emily were there. We swam, we raced, we had fun. I guess they figured out something's going on with Dan and me because when we got out of the pond, they made themselves scarce. Dan and I took our walk in the woods. When we're together like that, I feel as though everything is going to work out. I like to think I help him feel that way also. Dan walked me home and we ran into Mom in the driveway. I'm going off to get gas, she said. Dan, would you like a lift into town? Dan said yes, and I asked if I could go too. Mom said sure. We'd be picking up Mrs. Nesbitt also. She wanted to go to the library. There are 2 gas stations in town that still have gas. The way it works is you get in line and then you prepay. It's $12 a gallon or $35 for 3 gallons. Exact change only and a maximum of 3 gallons. It usually takes about an hour to get the gas, and then you drive to the other gas station and get 3 gallons there. Then if you have the time and the money, you go back to the first gas station and start all over again. So while Mom is waiting in line, there's plenty of time to go to the library or do anything else you want to do. A lot of times, Mom drops Matt and Johnny off at the park and they find a pickup game of baseball while Mom does the gas lines. But since we were all sure it was going to rain, they decided to skip the trip. So there was room for Mrs. Nesbit and Dan and me. Mom got into the gas line, and Mrs. Nesbit, Dan, and I walked over to the library. There's very little that is still open in town, so the library has gotten real popular. Of course, it's not the same way it used to be either. With no electricity, things are pretty dark, and they can't scan the books, so you're on an honor system. 4 books to a customer, and they trust you to return them as soon as you can. We have lots of books at home, but Mom's been urging Matt and Johnny and me to use the library as much as possible. I guess she's afraid it won't stay open that much longer. We all found books to take out. I put Mrs. Nesbit's and my books in my book bag. Dan and I kissed in the stacks, and then when we left the library, he started walking toward his home, and Mrs. Nesbit and I started back to the gas station to keep Mom company while she waited. Only, as we were walking, we saw a long line in the elementary school playground. There were maybe 50 people in the line, and we noticed a couple of state troopers standing around, making sure people stayed in place. I ran over to see what was going on. "They're giving away food," a man told me, "1 bag per household." I waved Mrs. Nesbit over and got her a place in the line. "I'm going to get Dan," I told her. "We'll meet you back here." So I ran, and I do mean ran, toward Dan's home. It didn't take me long to find him and explain what was going on. We both ran back to the playground. By the time we got there, Mrs. Nesbit was about 20 people ahead of us. I knew we couldn't just cut in line and join her, but we yelled so that she knew we were there. It wasn't bad in the line, maybe because the troopers saw to it that we behaved ourselves. Any kids who might have been whining played with the slides and swings instead, and it was fun watching them have a good time. We were all excited about getting food, even if we didn't know what exactly to expect. It kind of felt like Christmas shopping. Every now and again, one of the troopers would explain the rules to us. 1 bag per household, all the bags were identical, make any trouble and no bag. No cost, but a thank you would be appreciated. Even when it began to rain, we didn't mind. It was a gentle summertime kind of rain, and since it's so humid, we hoped that the rain would clear things up and the weather would turn nice again. Dan and I held hands and giggled and enjoyed being together. We edged forward and we cheered when Mrs. Nesbit finally got into the school, and we cheered again when she emerged carrying a bag. We finally got in ourselves. There were other troopers in the school clearly guarding the bags. It was scary seeing them with real guns. But everyone was very well behaved. When you got to the front of the line, you had to show an ID that had your address on it. Luckily, Dan and I both had our library cards with us. We were each handed a plastic bag and told to leave, which we did. When we walked out, we saw the troopers were telling people not to get in line. The supplies were running out. We found Mrs. Nesbit standing just outside the playground. "There's rice," she said, "and beans and all kinds of goodies." I was so excited that I flat out kissed Dan right in front of Mrs. Nesbit. Not that she seemed shocked. Dan gave me a hug and said goodbye. "My mom is going to be so happy," he said, which pretty much summed it up. "Maybe there'll be more," I said. "Maybe this is the start of better times." "Let's hope so," he said. He gave me one more kiss, and then he started back to his house. I took Mrs. Nesbit's bag, and we began walking back to the gas station. I couldn't get over how excited Mom was going to be when she saw I was bringing food. It was about a half-mile walk to the gas station, and the gentle rain had become heavy with distant thunderstorms. I told Mrs. Nesbit I wished I had an umbrella for her, but she just laughed. "I won't melt," she said. When we got to the gas station, we couldn't find Mom's car, which meant she was already on her way to the second gas station. That added another 5 blocks to the walk, and Mrs. Nesbit and I were drenched by the time we finally found her, but it didn't matter. Rice and beans and powdered milk and salt, and boxed soup mix and dehydrated vegetables, and cornflakes and lime jello. Mom only had a 10-car wait by the time we got there. It was so wet anyway, I volunteered to get out and pay, which I did. It feels so funny to go into the convenience store and see completely empty shelves and signs saying, Cashier is armed and trained to shoot. I guess Mrs. Nesbit told Mom all about the food and the line while I was paying for the gas. All I know is Mom was in a great mood before I left the car, and she was very quiet by the time I got back in. I don't know if Mom felt 6 gallons was enough for one day, or if she wanted to get Mrs. Nesbit home because she was so wet. But we drove straight back and dropped Mrs. Nesbit off. Any effort Mom might have made to seem social while Mrs. Nesbit was still in the car ended as soon as it was just the two of us. "What?" I said when we were finally alone. "What did I do this time?" "We'll discuss it inside," she said. Her teeth were so clenched she could have been a ventriloquist. We walked in the kitchen and I flung the book bag and the grocery bag on the table. "I thought you'd be happy," I said. "We have all this food now. What did I do wrong?" "Sometimes I just don't understand you," she said like I was the mystery creature. "You saw everyone standing in line, and what did you do?" "I got in the line," I said. "Wasn't that what I was supposed to do?" "You left Mrs. Nesbit and went to get Dan," Mom said. "That seems to be the part you're forgetting." "Right," I said. "I ran to get Dan, and then we got right in the line." "And what if they had run out of food by the time you got back?" Mom asked. "What would have happened then?" "Then we wouldn't have gotten all this great stuff," I said. "Rice and beans and lime jello. I didn't know they were going to run out of food so soon. Besides, what difference does it make? They didn't run out of food, and he got food to take home, and so did I, and so did Mrs. Nesbit. I don't see what you're so mad about." "Ugh, how often do I have to explain this to you?" Mom asked. "Family is all that matters. Dan has to worry about his family, and you have to worry about yours. And before you even begin to say something about Peter, he has brought us food every time he's come here, and the least I could do is give him some bread in return." Yeah, I would have brought up Peter too if she hadn't. Even I knew better than to say Mrs. Nesbit wasn't family. "There was enough for all of us," I said. "Pure luck," Mom said. "I will not have Johnny or Matt or you starve because you want to include a friend. This isn't the time for friendships, Miranda. We have to watch out only for ourselves." That's not how you brought us up," I said. "Whatever happened to share and share alike?" "Sharing is a luxury," she said. "We can't afford luxuries right now." For a moment, Mom seemed terribly sad instead of angry. I saw an expression in her eyes that I remembered from when she and Dad split up. "You think we're going to die," I said. Any sadness immediately evaporated and rage took its place. "Don't you ever say that to me again," she yelled. "None of us is going to die. I will not allow that to happen." I actually reached out to comfort her. "It's okay, Mom," I said. "I know you're doing everything you can for us, but Dan and I have something wonderful, like you and Peter, something special. Otherwise, I never would have told him about the food." But Mom was anything but comforted. There was a look on her face, a look of horror, almost like the way she looked that first night. "Are you sleeping with him?" she asked. "Are you lovers?" "Mom," I said. "Because if you are, you had better never see him again," she said. "I will forbid you to go to the pond. I won't let you leave this house alone again. Do you understand me? I can't let you risk getting pregnant." She grabbed my shoulders and pulled me to an inch of her face. "Do you understand that?" "I understand," I yelled right back into her face. "I understand that you don't trust me." "If I don't trust you, I certainly don't trust Dan," she said. "The two of you cannot be left alone. I forbid it." Just try to forbid it, I screamed. I love Dan and he loves me, and nothing you say or do is going to stop us. Go to your room now, Mom said, and don't think about coming out until I tell you to. Now! I didn't need any encouragement. I raced to my room and I slammed the door as loud as I could, and then I cried. Big howling sobs. I am not Sammy. I am not an idiot. Sure, I'd love to make love with Dan. I'd love to make love with someone before this whole stupid world ends. But even though I told Mom that Dan and I love each other, I know we don't. Thank God, because I thought she was stupid and okay. That's not love, in my opinion. But what do I know about love? I love the same man for 32 years. Okay. I know we don't. Not the kind of love that I want to feel for the first man I make love with. Half the time I can't figure out what Dan is feeling. I would have thought he would try to go further with me, but he hasn't. We kiss, we hug, that's it. And there's Mom acting like we're animals in heat. It's so unfair. I haven't seen Sammy or Megan since school ended. Dan's practically the only friend I have left in the world. Even if we aren't lovers, even if we aren't boyfriend and girlfriend, he's still the only person I see who isn't family or Peter. I laugh with him, I talk to him, I care about him, and Mom makes it sound like that's something bad, like I can't have friends anymore, like family is the only thing that matters from now on. If that's how the world is supposed to be, I hope it does end soon. I hate Mom for making me feel this way. I hate Mom for making me feel that for every good day, there have to be 10 or 20 or 100 bad ones. I hate Mom for not trusting me. I hate Mom for making me even more scared. I hate Mom for making me hate her. I hate her. It's typical teenage behavior. It's probably worse though, since they're having all these hard days. June 25th. Except for going to the bathroom, and I only did that when I thought no one would see me, I stayed in my room all yesterday. I kept the door shut, and in a fit of rebellion, even I realized was dumb, I read by flashlight for 4 hours. Matt knocked on my door this morning. Breakfast is ready, he said. I'm never eating again, I said. More food that way for you and Johnny. Matt entered the room and closed the door behind him. Stop being a baby, he said. You made your point. Now go to the kitchen and eat breakfast. You might want to kiss Mom good morning while you're at it. I am not talking to her until she apologizes, I said. It's funny. I was still angrier than I was hungry, or maybe I just knew that even after breakfast I'd still be hungry. So what's the point? Matt shook his head. I thought you were more mature than this, he said. I expected better from you. Well, I don't care what you expect, I said, which was a total lie. I care desperately what Matt thinks of me. I didn't do anything wrong. Mom attacked me for absolutely no reason. Why aren't you telling her you expected better from her? Matt sighed. I wasn't here, he said. I only have Mom's version of what went on. Well, did she happen to mention that she was horrible? I asked. That she acted like I was some kind of criminal? Or did she leave that stuff out? If you mean, did she burst into tears and say she felt terrible for all the things she said to you, then the answer is no, Matt said. But she did say how terrible she felt that you were going through all of this. Miranda, Mom is holding on by the skin of her teeth. She has the three of us to worry about and Mrs. Nesbitt, and you know Mom. She's worried about Dad too, and Lisa, and her baby, and Peter. She's worried sick about Peter. He's working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and she has no idea if he's eating anything. I thought I was going to start crying again, which I didn't want to do. Mom thinks we're all going to die, I said. Doesn't she? Do you? Is this all for nothing? Are we all just going to die? Mom doesn't think that, and neither do I, Matt said. I could tell he thought about it a lot and that it wasn't just a glib answer. Now, that's not the same as saying the worst is over, because I don't think it is, and Mom doesn't think so either. If things stay the way they are, then we have a real chance. All the scientists are working on making things better. That bag of food yesterday proves that things are improving. But this has to be the worst, I said. How could things get any worse than they are now? Matt grinned. You don't really want me to answer that, do you? He asked. We both laughed and I shook my head. Mom's more worried about Mrs. Nesbit than she is about us, Matt said. Mom's asked her to move in with us, but Mrs. Nesbit has it in her head that it would be an imposition, which only makes things harder for Mom. I know Mom doesn't want us to die, I said. I thought really hard about what I wanted to say so it would come out right. But I think maybe she doesn't want us to live either. We should just hide in our rooms and not feel anything. And if we get rescued, great. But if we don't, well, maybe we'll live a little longer, if you can call that living. I know Mom tells you things she doesn't tell me, but am I wrong? Because I really feel that way more and more. I'd like to be wrong because it scares me if Mom feels that way, but I don't think I am. Mom can't guess the future any better than you or me or Mrs. O'Leary's cow, Matt said. Horton could be on CNN, assuming there still is a CNN, and have as much of a chance of being right as anybody else. But she thinks, and I do too, that we're in for some very hard times worse than what we're going through now. And the way she sees it, the better we take care of ourselves now, the better chance we'll have when things get worse. So yeah, she probably does seem overprotective right now. I know she's scared to send Johnny off to camp, but she's absolutely determined to do that. And now not let him know how worried she is. So don't you tell him either. I won't, I promised. Mom doesn't have to worry about me. I'm not stupid, Matt, but I don't want to have to stop feeling. I really think I'd rather die than stop feeling. No one's asking that of you, he said, and Mom doesn't want you to stop swimming or to stop seeing Dan. She's happy when you're happy, but she wouldn't want Dan to be the only friend you see under any circumstances. Why don't you visit Megan or Sammy? I could use some good Sammy stories. The truth of the matter is, I hardly even think about Sammy or Megan. It's like they're a part of the world that's already ended for me. But since I'd just finished a big speech about feelings, I didn't think I could confess that. So I nodded and told Matt I'd get dressed and make things up with Mom. But when I saw Mom in the kitchen, I didn't feel like getting all kissy-kissy with her, and I could see she wasn't all that eager to get kissy-kissy with me either. She and Johnny were both sitting at the table looking kind of glum. Without even thinking about it, I said, Johnny, you want to go to Miller's Pond with me this morning? Johnny's face lit up, and I could see I'd said the right thing as far as Mom was concerned. That'd be great, he said. I have no idea why Johnny hasn't just invited himself along. It's not like I own Miller's Pond. But Johnny's been playing baseball, or at least practicing with Matt, and Matt's been running when he hasn't been playing ball. Maybe they figured swimming was mine and they'd keep away from it. Johnny put his trunks on under his jeans while I was eating breakfast, and as soon as we were both ready, we walked together to the pond. With my luck, of course, Emily and Karen weren't there, so Dan and I lost good alone time. But it was worth it to see how happy Johnny was in the water. There were a couple of kids he knew from middle school, and the three of them played together. Then we all swam together, played water polo, and imitation relay races. It was another one of those hot summer days, so we all laid around after swimming and let the sun dry us off. Dan, it turns out, is a big Phillies fan, and he and Johnny talked baseball, which made Johnny even happier. I've been so involved in my own problems, I haven't thought much about what all this is doing to Johnny. until I saw how excited he was talking with Dan about all-time great second baseman. I hadn't realized just how bored he's been. He's had Matt, and Matt's been great with him, but this time of year when Johnny isn't playing ball, he's watching it on TV or following it on the internet. Johnny is passionate about baseball the way I used to be about skating. I'm really glad his baseball camp is going to be open. He deserves a couple of weeks of doing what he loves best. I guess because Johnny was with me, Dan didn't walk me home. That was okay, because it gave me more of a chance to talk with Johnny. I've been thinking about something, he said, and I could tell it was something really important to him. Right away, that meant it wasn't anything good. You know how I'm planning on playing second for the Yankees? Since Johnny's been planning on that since birth, I wasn't exactly surprised to hear it, so I just nodded. I know Mom's doing her best, Johnny said, but I don't think I'm eating a well-balanced diet. Protein and stuff like that. I'm 5'5", and I don't know how much taller I can get if I don't start eating hamburgers and roast beef. We're eating better than lots of other people, I said. Better than people here, Johnny said. But what if there are 13-year-old guys in Japan or the Dominican Republic who are eating hamburgers and who are growing? I don't see how I can reach 6 feet on canned tuna. What if I end up 5'6"? I would have laughed, except he looked so serious. Besides, I knew Matt wouldn't have laughed. Matt doesn't laugh at my idiotic questions. Are you taking your vitamins? I asked. Johnny nodded. Well, they'll help, I said. Look, Johnny, I don't know what things are going to be like tomorrow, let alone years from now. Even if things get back to normal and baseball is just like it is now, like it was last year, players years from now may all be shorter than they used to be. Or maybe there will be less competition for you because there just won't be that many second basemen around. I don't think things are great in the Dominican Republic or Japan. The guys your age may not grow to 6 feet either, or have the time to work on their baseball the way you do. You mean you think they're all dead? Johnny said. Not exactly, I said, suddenly appreciating how well Matt's been handling me lately. What I think is the whole world is going through rough times now, not just Pennsylvania. And there are probably boys in the Dominican Republic and in Japan who are worrying the same way you are. Only I don't know if they have vitamins or canned tuna, and I do know one thing. It's like Dad always says, the only way you can be the best at something is to be the best that you can be. If you're the best second baseman you can be, you stand as good a chance as anyone at playing second for the Yankees. Do you hate all this? Johnny asked. Yes, I said, and I miss hamburgers too. When we got home, I saw Mom in the kitchen, flour and yeast and measuring cups all spread out on the counter. The kitchen must have been 100 degrees between how hot it was outside and the oven being on. Can I help, Mom? I asked. I'd like to learn how to bake bread. Mom smiled at me. Really smiled. Smiled like I was her long-lost daughter, the good one, who she thought was gone forever. I'd like that, she said. So we baked and sweated together. I like punching the dough. I told myself it was the moon, and I punched it senseless. So they really think it's going to get worse before it gets better, which is probably true, but we will find out. So tune in tomorrow for chapter 7. Have a great day, you guys.